Steam is currently the world's largest video game distributor with over 60 million users logging in and out every day. And it is by far the most popular video game client. Well, because I mean, the competition isn't really too hard. I mean, who the fuck uses this shit? It has over 90,000 different games you can install and play right now, and it receives over 1,000 brand new titles added each month. And why does it sound like an ad? Because it isn't. Gaben, please sponsor me. Now, that's a lot of games. So many games, in fact, that it's almost impossible to keep track and moderate. And we still, as the gaming community, have the audacity to say that there's no good games to play. I mean, come on. Sure there are. We've got amazing games like Witcher 3, Dave the Diver, Red Dead Redemption 2, Katana Zero, that one game that makes me want to kill myself. You got Elden Ring, you got Risk of Rain 2, you got Apex Legends, CSGO, School Shooter Simulator. Wait, what the fuck? Now, there are a lot of games on Steam. Like, a lot. No, seriously, see for yourself. Do me a favor, open up your Steam, filter it by game titles, and just look at that number. That's how many games are actually available, and that's a fuck ton. And obviously, to nobody's surprise, you do tend to stumble upon a few of these games and sort of do a double take when browsing around. Like, for example, like, whoa, Catboy's Paradise, whoa, Shower with Your Dad Simulator, or a personal favorite of mine, Sex with Hitler. Yeah. It's as interesting as it sounds. It's actually one of the best games I've ever played in my life. But that's just all fun and memes, right? Titles that are so outrageously random and funny that they are meant to grab your attention. But what if you were to grab that same level of shock factor and boost it all the way up to holy shit, how the fuck is this even allowed on Steam? Games that were not very well received by the public, just did not fly with morality or even the law, and were straight up just so disgusting and controversial they eventually had to be pulled from Steam. I'm talking about the dark side of Steam. Things that even Lord Gaben wouldn't dare talk about. But don't worry, because I will. So here are the most dangerous Steam games you should never add to your library. Number 1. Hatred. I mean, most of you probably already know or have at least seen this game around before. Developed by the studio named Destructive Creations. Fitting name, by the way. Hatred is a simple top-down shoot-'em-up game where your objective is pretty straightforward. Shoot everybody. And I know this may sound very cliche and nothing out of the ordinary, but the main problem and disturbing aspect stems from the plot and story of why you're doing it. Which is you, the player, play as a man who is a mass murdering villain who, quote, hates this world and the human worms feasting on its carcass and embarks on a genocide crusade against the entire human race. So yeah, pretty lighthearted stuff. The whole game is basically just this glorified murder spree where you spend the first 15 minutes killing innocent bystanders just out in the streets, or you can even invade them in their homes if you so please. Whichever floats your boat. It's even got some charming open world aspects to it, so that's pretty nice. Then eventually the cops come to try to take you down, only to fail miserably because you've just got this insane plot armor like you're every shitty anime protagonist combined into one. Towards the end of the game, you break into a nuclear power plant where you cause the reactor to explode, killing all of New York. So yeah, happy ending. There's also an execution system where if you walk up to a person who's on the ground, you can then initiate a cutscene. And I must say, some of these animations are actually pretty gnarly, I'm not gonna lie. There was one where he just comes up from behind a woman and snaps her neck very slowly, and there's also another one where he walks up to the guy and he's like shoving the pistol in his mouth and he doesn't even fucking hesitate. And the knife ones are, oh, yeah, I did not like the knife ones, to be honest. I don't really feel the need to explain those ones. I could just leave them up to you guys if you guys want to find them out yourself. And I say that because you can. Believe it or not, you can actually buy and play Hatred on Steam right now. I mean, depending on where you live, of course. It's banned here in Australia because we're a bunch of fucking pussies. But yes, despite all of the controversy and public outrage this game understandably went through, to this day, it is still up and available on Steam. Now, I will say there was a point where Valve did take action and was forced to ban the game, removing it entirely from their Steam library due to public outrage, but then eventually got re-released along with a personal apology from Gabe Newell himself. So I guess Gaben was a big fan. Number 2, Fight of Gods. Now this one is honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of funny. Have you ever had an argument with someone about religion? Who am I kidding? Of course you have. I mean, almost every day. I mean, who hasn't, right? Whether it's about which religion is superior, your beliefs are trash, or my God would beat the ever-living shit out of your God. Well, now you can finally settle that debate in a best of 3 in Fight of Gods, a 1v1 based fighting game where all the playable characters are figures that pertain to actual world religions and mythologies. I never thought I'd see the day where saying a sentence like, I main Jesus because he's top tier, would actually make perfect sense to me. Created by the Taiwanese indie developer Digital Crafter, the game was released on PC in 2017, then later on would also make its appearance on the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4 consoles. The ports, however, were not that simple, since both Nintendo and Sony stated that the game's contents were too controversial for a global release, leading to several changes being made. Some of the characters' models were changed, as well as some of the characters' names, such as Jesus being renamed to Saint, Buddha was renamed to Zen, and Moses was then changed to Wisdom. But despite all of those changes being made to the game, it was still not enough to stop itself from being banned in several countries, such as Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and many more. I guess seeing their own god getting his ass whooped by Santa Claus was a bit too much for them to handle. Number 3. Active shooter. Now, when it comes to video games, for some reason, they just have a way easier time when it comes to handling and publishing explicit content. I mean, especially nowadays, you see kids as young as 10 years old playing games like Call of Duty, Mortal Kombat, and Grand Theft Auto, and nobody even really cares anymore. Because unless you're a 50-year-old boomer, you don't really see a problem in that. It's pretty obvious to separate the difference between just consuming content strictly for entertainment purposes to reality. I mean, let's face it, I think we've all had our fair share of experiencing what it's like playing a Grand Theft Auto game for the first time. Running over pedestrians, trying to take down the entire police force, and of course, how can I forget those magnificent and glorious strip clubs? Oh boy, those were good times. That was the day I became a man. But then there are some times where some video games are just hitting a little bit too close to reality and are really leaping over that fine line between, okay, that's a little bit edgy, to holy shit, that's kind of fucked up. Active Shooter was an early access first-person shooter simulator that thankfully got swept under the rug for all the right reasons. Developed by the Russian studio Revived Games, it was announced on Steam back in 2018 and offered an early access demo. The playable teaser was set in a high school where, yeah, I don't really feel like I need to explain this part. I think you can all connect the dots. And that allowed the player to take the role of either the SWAT member, the active shooter, and I shit you not, even as one of the civilians trying to flee the scene. To absolutely nobody's surprise whatsoever, the game did garner a lot of controversy, not just because of the game's outrageous premise and extremely graphic content, but, well, I mean, the timing was a bit bad. 2018 was also the same year where the truly unfortunate events of Parkland High School in Florida transpired. And with just 3 months after the incident, with absolutely no hesitation at all, the Russian developers felt somewhat inspired, I guess, and capitalized on the tragedy. But you might be sitting there asking yourself, how in the fuck does a game like this even pass moderation at Valve? Well, that's the thing. I don't know if you've noticed, but there is no fucking moderation team at Valve. Have you seen the front page? Look at this shit. Okay, all jokes aside, Steam's policy as of 2018 stated that they allow any content on their platform as long as it was not deemed illegal. Because that's just the way Steam is, a hub where you can find all sorts of different types of games, and Valve believes that every developer deserves a chance on their platform. However, this only sparked even more public outrage, leading to many news articles and headlines not too fond of Valve's procedures, as well as an online petition with over 200,000 signatures calling action for the game's cancellation. Following the media's reaction to the game, Valve has then updated their policy as of June 6, 2018 to add that if the content was deemed to have too much trolling, designed to do nothing but generate outrage and cause conflict through its existence, it would then be removed from Steam. Yeah, I'm not kidding, they actually did use the word trolling, thus resulting in one of the most infamous games to be banned in Steam history. Good riddance. Number 4. Manhunt. All of the games we've covered thus far have all had something in common, which is that they've all been created by very small indie developers. So this next one might come as a little bit of a surprise, since not only is it not behind a small indie developer, but it actually comes from one of the most beloved and admired greatest video game developers of all time. Rockstar. Now, first of all, let me get this straight. It's really not that big of a surprise to see that a Rockstar game made it to this list, since family-friendly content isn't exactly their main focus. In fact, it's actually the complete opposite. Almost everything they've ever made caters to their adult fan base, and the GTA franchise is no exception. I mean, it's basically the pinnacle of mature video games, featuring all of the themes a parent should worry about. Violence, drugs, blood and gore, nudity. But at the end of the day, the game isn't really hard focused on those tags at all. It features a beautiful open world for you to explore, alongside an immersive storyline featuring well-written and very lovable characters. And that's what makes the GTA franchise just so special, is that not only is the game super fun, but it also brings along this cinematic masterpiece of an adventure you just won't forget. But now, here's what the problem is, right? Let's bring back those tags. Yeah, so this next game does focus on these tags, especially this one, a lot. If you were like me and grew up around the early 2000s, chances are you've probably seen this game mentioned a couple times on your local news. Back when video games were sought out to be the devil's work and was to blame for almost every crime that was committed during that time period. Manhunt was a third-person action stealth game released in 2003 for both the PlayStation 2 and Xbox consoles, and quickly gained its reputation of being the most popular, disturbing game of all time. You play the story of James Earl Cash, a death row prisoner forced to participate in a series of snuff films for a deranged film producer. It focuses heavily on stealth, requiring the player to sneak up behind people and to initiate an execution cutscene. The cinematics would then be played out in this shaky POV, alongside a vintage VHS static filter made to look like it was filmed on a handheld camera or CCTV footage. It even featured realistic weapons of choice, such as plastic bags and shards of glass, to then furthermore replicate the realism of snuff films. Shortly after its release, it was swiftly banned in countries like Australia and New Zealand, with many talks of it being banned in several more. But despite all of the controversy surrounding the game, Manhunt was still critically acclaimed to be unique and truly a masterpiece for its time. Although it was extremely graphic and a little too much for the common gamer to endure, critics still rated it pretty damn high, saying things like it's a dark, underrated masterpiece and the best of gaming horror. God damn it, Rockstar, you done did it again. God damn it, man. Number 5. Yeah. So before we hop into this one, I do have to warn you, for the sake of your own sanity, you might want to give this one a skip. No, seriously, this is not a joke. So if you are sensitive to topics such as this, and this, you can go right ahead and skip all of that by just clicking down on this timestamp. Go right ahead. Don't feel ashamed. I can completely understand why you would want to. Trust me, you're gonna be thankful that you did. Now that all the normal people are gone, don't say I didn't warn you. Let's dive right into this game, shall we? You sick sons of bitches, you all need therapy, you hear me? Raid Day was a fantasy visual novel developed by the individual that goes by the name Desk Plant, who first showcased the early stages of their game in early 2019. The game was described as a multiple choice adventure set during a zombie apocalypse where the player takes control of a serial killer. Similar to how almost every other visual novel is played, it allows the player to make decisions that would then impact the direction of the player's story. However, no matter how much freedom the game would give you, it would still always encourage you to do one thing in particular, which is sexually harass the female characters. Choices would mainly revolve around how you would attack your target, to sexual positions, and whether or not you wanted to keep your victim alive or dead during the act. And just when you thought this game couldn't get any more vile, I will gladly prove you wrong, because yes, there is a baby scene. I will, however, spare you the extra details since even I myself doesn't exactly know what happens in this scene. I chose not to look at it since I just, I really wanted to savor, the tiniest bit of faith I have left in this world and humanity. Is that too much to ask? All I know for sure is that it was in the game at one point, but was then later on removed during the development progress in order to avoid having the game labeled as child exploitation, which is against Steam's policy. So just to be clear, it actually was Steam's terms of service that ended up putting a stop to this scene being published. It wasn't the dev's moral compass being like, hey man, this is don't you think this is kind of fucked up? I don't think we should do this, man. There is absolutely no remorse or guilt coming from this dev at all. Like, with a creation like this, I honestly believe that if he touched the Bible, it would light on fire. The game understandably garnered a monstrous amount of attention. Members of the British Parliament called for the UK government to review how the game even made it to development stages in the first place, as well as the game receiving over 128,000 signatures on change.org calling for the game's cancellation, making it the 4th biggest video game to be cancelled as of 2024. After the game's removal on Steam, the dev went on to defend himself following his departure, saying, "This game was intended for a niche audience, including the 4% of the general population that are sociopaths. Banning raid in fiction would require banning murder and torture. Most people can separate fiction from reality pretty well, and those who can't shouldn't be playing video games." Now, as much as I am rooting against this guy, it's hard to admit, but he does have somewhat of a point. Video games have these extreme levels of violence, of blood and gore that a lot of us have sort of become desensitized to at this point. A lot of very high-rated and well-known titles consist of having murder and torture and even kids, you know. And especially with how realistic some of these games' graphics are nowadays, it is very hard finding that line of what's okay and what's clearly not. But I think we can all agree that this is on a completely different level from the rest. As of March 2019, Valve announced the removal of Raid Day from their store, and along with a statement, "We respect a developer's desire to express themselves, but this developer has chosen content matter and a way of representing it that makes it very difficult for us to help them do that," marking it as the most controversial game in Steam history. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video for what it was. I know it was a bit weird, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I know this is not normally what I do. I'm trying to like branch out and do different things. So do please let me know what you guys think about the video. Gamer Sups. Go check him out in the description below. Use code SPANKS, 10% off. All right, go check them out. We got new flavors, new cups, all that. Thank you guys so much again for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next one, whenever that may be. Much love as always, guys. Much love. Peace.